Hey everyone, happy Monday. I hope you all had a fantastic weekend. Jason Zwolak here of the Zwolak Group with First Team and Christie's International Real Estate. I wanted to take a minute today to talk to all of my investors out there. So whether you're thinking of buying an investment property or you own some investment property, this is something you're really going to want to listen to and take some notes if you need to, but you really need to understand what happened as of January 1st. So January 1st, 2020, AB 1482 came into play. And what this is the California Rent Control Bill. And they really brought this in to combat rising prices of homes, rising rent prices, and evictions and homelessness. So they're really trying to do it because we all know we have a housing crisis here in California, and they're really doing everything they can to combat this. So this is one way that they're doing that. So what we did is we have 5 questions here that we think are going to be important questions that people are really going to ask. Whether you're a landlord or you're a tenant, these questions are really going to be important. So I have a copy of this. So I will make this available. I'll put it in a link, or if you want to send me a message, I can send it to you directly so that you have this on file so that you can refer to it whenever you need to. But what I thought I would do today is just go through these questions and answer them, talk about them, and then we can go from there. So I'm not going to jump right in. Let's look at question number 1. Question number 1, what is the rent cap allowed by the bill? So the maximum increase within a 12-month period is 5% plus inflation, as measured by the Consumer Price Index, which is the CPI, or 10%, whichever is lower. Okay, so that's what that is. Right now, I believe it's at 8.3%. So that's the max amount allowed for that rent increase. Okay, so you might be wondering, what's the CPI? What is the Consumer Price Index? Where does that number come from? So let's answer that question next. So what is the Consumer Price Index? So the applicable CPI is either the regional CPI as published by the U.S. Bureau of Statistics, or if there is no regional index available, the California CPI for all consumers for all items as determined by the California Department of Industrial Relations. That's a mouthful, okay? But essentially what it is they're coming up with these numbers to show what that inflation number is, and that's going to be capped, and that's what is going to help cap these rents. So you have to really be aware of that, what that number is, so that you're not in violation of this bill, okay? So the next question is, can a landlord raise the rent beyond the cap after a tenant moves out and the unit is vacant? Okay, so the answer is yes, they can. Okay, once the tenant has moved out and the unit is vacant, that landlord can raise the rent beyond that 8.3%, and there's no issues. However, the landlord cannot evict a tenant to do that. Okay, so they can't say, hey, you know what, your lease is coming up, we're not renewing your lease or whatever, and we're raising your rent. We're gonna basically evict you, and then we're going to raise your rent to beyond that 8.3%, and then bring you back. That's not allowed. So they are allowed to do that if the unit is vacant and the tenant moves out. Okay, but you can't be evicted for that purpose. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's look at the next question. Question number 4. What if my rent was increased in 2019? And this is a great question. So if your rent has increased more than 8.3% between March 15th and January 1st of 2020, March 15th of 2019 and January 1st of 2020, your rent may go down. Okay? So starting on January 1st, 2020, your rent reduces to your rent on March 15th, plus 8.3%. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense. So say you have your rent on March 15th was X amount of dollars, and it was increased 10% last year. Okay? So it went up that full 10%. Well, as of January 21st, 2020, your rent needs to go back to that original amount that it was on the 15th of March plus 8.3%. So in general, your rent would come down 1.7% in that scenario. So hopefully that makes sense. So if you did get a rent increase, or as a landlord, if you did increase your rent, then you need to really check your numbers and make sure that you are in compliance with this law. We just don't want anybody to get into any trouble and land themselves in court because of this. So let's take care of this now, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to go over some of this stuff. Okay, so also if your rent increases less than 8.3% between March 15th and 2019 and January 1st, 2020, your rent will stay the same, and there can be 2 more increases before March 15th, 2020, not to exceed 8.3% above your March 15th, 2019 rent. So essentially, the bottom line is the max that your rent can go up from March 15th, 2019 is 8.3%. That makes things easier. If it went up higher, more than that, then it should come down. And if it didn't go up that much, then over the course of the next couple months until March 15th of 2020, you may see 2 more rent increases that are legal to get you up to that 8.3%. So let's use an example. March 15th, your rent was $1,000 a month, and it went up $50 a month. Okay, so it went up 5%. In that time. So now, between now and March 15th of 2020, the landlord can increase that rent 2 more times and can increase it to a max of $1,083 or 8.3%. So your rent can go up $33 more. That's in our scenario here. I don't know if you can find rent for $1,000 here in California, but hey, you know what? Let's just use that scenario for fun, right? So that kind of explains what happens if your rent has gone up. So let's look at the final question, and this one is a really great one, and it brings up to light some things that need to be done by you as a landlord. So how does a renter know if they are covered by AB 1482? So a renter in a single-family home, and that's really what we're talking about here, because a lot of the people that we deal with, a lot of you out there, they have single-family homes that they're renting out. We have a couple that we are actually our landlords for, and we own a couple rentals ourselves. So this is where that's coming to for you. So is covered by the rent cap and the just cause for eviction requirement if the home is owned by a corporation or a real estate investment trust. Okay? If it's not owned by a corporation, or if it's not owned by a real estate investment trust, not a private trust, but a real estate investment trust, then it does not apply. AB 1482 does not apply to you. Okay? That's really important. Okay, so you have to understand that. Some people have their rentals in corporations to protect them, but if it is in a corporation or an LLC, you definitely want to look into that, because that is where the rent control bill does come into play. Okay, if it's just privately owned, it's under your name, it's under your family trust or whatever, not under a real estate investment trust, then AB 1482 does not apply. However, there is a caveat. And this is something that is extremely important, and I want to get this all out to our investors right now, okay? Everybody's looking at me? All right, let's get this. If your home, your investment property, does not be affected by AB 1482, so 1482 does not apply to your home, you have to let your tenants know in writing that it does not apply. Okay? And you have to do so, and if you don't, then it does apply. Okay? So just what I would do, send out a letter, email, whatever way you want to do, so that you have proof that you did send this to them, and let them know that, hey, AB, just so you know, pursuant to the new law, AB 1482, our home does not apply to the bill does not apply to our home, right? Something along those lines. So I think that's really important, and I think a lot of landlords need to know that. So hopefully this has answered some of your questions. Like I said, we've got a great sheet here, a great form, outlines the questions that I talked about today. I think this is very important to have in your files, just so you know what it's about. So let me know if you want one. Hit the comments below. I will send this over to you. Also, I'll post it in the link on YouTube. It'll be in there'll be a link to a copy of this. So check it out. Other than that, I hope you guys all have a great week. I love our investors out there. Keep investing. Great way to build wealth is through real estate. So have a fantastic week this week. And until next time, take care, everybody.